To have beauty, status, wealth. Not fear the execution of the wicked witch, and eventually marry the prince she loves. This is the fate given to princesses. In one city, a girl asked a passerby for directions to her palace. The shopgirl replied that she had to go in the direction of the main road to get out to the palace. This girl seemed to be one of the ones who had come for the princess trial. Her name is Han Moli, and she is a most ordinary clerk. Just over half an hour ago, because of her cycling, she dropped dead in her office. And then, in the afterlife, when she woke up, she saw a cat that greeted her happily. It was a cat in boots. She had been chosen as a participant, the princess game. This game is organized specifically for dead girls. Because she had worked 72 hours without rest or sleep, she had developed acute heart failure, and all she wanted to do was make some money. Now that she had accepted reality, the cat began to explain the rules of the game to her. She must choose one of 7 cards. She would become a princess with the card she chose. She also, like the other 6 princesses, will have 3 years to win the heart of the prince. The woman who marries him will be rewarded with 50 years of life in the real world. Then the girl said indignantly that she wasn't interested in just 50 years of life. She doesn't want to go back at all to work herself to exhaustion again. But the cat hasn't finished talking yet. The winner can also get a bonus of 10 million. After these words, the girl didn't hesitate to draw one card. She drew the Princess Pea card. A beautiful princess that could feel a pea through 20 layers of down featherbeds and flannel. The very princess on the pea. The cat then gave her only 10 seconds to memorize her character's data and abilities. After 10 seconds she would enter the princess game world. In this world, she got soaked in the rain and found herself outside a large palace. If she wants to marry a prince, she first needs to get into the palace according to the storyline. She knocked on the door. She was met by a maid who opened the door for her and immediately realized that she was a princess who had come to see His Royal Highness. Then she asked to follow her. Following her, the girl thought, shouldn't she have first asked her who she was and let her answer? As she walked down the corridor, she noticed a huge painting that was hanging on the wall. The maid said it was a portrait of His Royal Highness, the only prince of this country. A portrait of Prince Vincent. The maid was delighted with His Majesty. She said he was the kindest and handsomest man in the world, and the girl who would marry him would be the happiest girl in the world. His face really is valuable for piquing the interest of the players, but she's not at an age to lose her head over a pretty face. The only thing that makes her heart flutter right now is the money she will receive at the end of the game. Because His Highness is weak and often ill, His Majesty wishes that a new heir be born as soon as possible. That is why the selection of brides is in full swing, and princesses from all over the world are reaching out to them. She had high hopes that someone could melt the prince's heart. As they approached the paper table, the maid gave her a number. She had number 40. This meant that she would have to defeat at least 39 contenders for the title of Queen of this country. The Empire of the Golden Rose is in the east of the continent and is the most powerful and huge. Many smaller Western countries want to increase their power and have sent their princesses here to marry. To choose among the princesses a worthy match for Prince Vincent, the servants have devised a test for this purpose. Whoever passes the test will become the official candidate for consort. The maid asked the princess to wait in the hall. There were so many princesses. It's a shame that they only play roles in the spelled-out story. Only those who know the whole tale could pass the test. And then a princess came into the hall who stood out from all the others. She had blonde hair and a white dress. Rich clothing and a proud personality. it was as if she were the true embodiment of the princess world. When she looked at Han Moli, the girl remembered that all real princesses must curtsy. She was immediately noticed by princesses from other countries. They did not know what country this girl came from. They had never seen her at social events. Though she was in a plain dress, she was very beautiful. She could compete with Her Highness Princess Vivian. The princess was not thrilled to be compared to some simpleton. The girls immediately apologized for this behavior, and said that her kingdom Gordon is the most powerful and prosperous and she is the most noble princess. His Royal Highness and Princess Helen arrived, announced the herald. When they entered the hall, everyone saw that they were even more beautiful than their portraits. When everyone had calmed down, His Highness said, "On this rainy and cold night, you bring spring to this castle. Thank you for coming to meet me from all countries, my dear alternative princesses." All the girls were delighted with his appearance and eloquence. Afterward, he introduced Princess Helena. They met by chance in the woods. She was quiet and did not speak at all. But now she had princess status and would be his alternate princess. He would like to be friends with them all, the prince said smilingly. Han Moli realized that this girl was one of the 7 players in the princess games. She entered the palace first and seized the opportunity. Suddenly a mole on her right finger began to ache. It was her card's ability. When she was in danger, the mole on her right finger got hotter. Indeed, someone in the crowd pushed her to the prince's feet. The guard who was standing near the prince became angry at this disrespectful behavior of the princess. The princess tried to justify that she just wanted to greet the prince. But Princess Vivian stood up for her. She said that the princess was not lying. Han Moli was very surprised that this girl stood up for her, for at first she seemed proud and unfriendly. Then the princess came out to the prince and greeted him. Princess Gordon, Vivian greets His Royal Highness. A true princess is well-bred, has dignity. Unlike poor people who have never seen an aristocrat, the latter will never refuse favor. She told Han Moli with a smirk that she was not used to walking on the marble floor in palaces. Then all the other princesses backed her up. She doesn't even have a maid, her dress is dirty. No wonder she has never been seen in high society, because she is a beggar. As she sat on the floor, she was very uncomfortable with them, alluding to her low status. She could only have been pushed out by Vivian. Han Moli began to make excuses to His Highness that she did it out of respect for him. The guard began to become even more indignant at the young lady. How dare she speak before His Highness? But the prince stopped his guard. She had the king's interest. It was her only chance to save herself, Han Moli decided. His Highness had invited princesses of all nations to choose a consort. He had the intention of establishing good relations with all nations. In her country, to kneel is the highest opportunity to show respect. And his royal guard was ready to publicly execute the princess because of the right of greeting. Would another king now be willing to marry the princess? The guard began to make excuses that he was only worried about his safety. It was strange for the prince to show respect by kneeling. He smiled at the girl and gave her a hand. It was the first time he had ever seen a girl who spoke so beautifully. Still, she was right. He really hoped to take this opportunity to establish friendly relations with all the countries. But the sentinel immediately did the right thing. It is not known what her motives were. Then Helen spoke out in defense of the girl. Your Highness, the guard was right, but the princess was not to blame. Then the prince smiled at her and replied that she knew she would never refuse her requests. And he asked Han Moli to thank his alternate princess, and pronounced his verdict, saying that the girl was innocent. At this, the prince said that he was tired and was going back to the castle. As he was leaving, Han Moli thanked His Highness for forgiving him and Princess Helen. She finally got out of this situation. This game was very dangerous. In the prince's office, the guard was telling the king that he thought Miss Vivian was right. This young lady is a stray tongue, her personality is suspicious, and the prince needs to send her away. Chuckling at him, the prince said that he didn't seem to understand women's hearts. A girl with a sharp tongue is not necessarily hypocritical or not elegant. If he doesn't understand that, they will continue to play their games. Meanwhile, the maid escorted all the princesses into the room and asked them to place their luggage next to the bed, depending on their number. His Highness invited everyone to dinner at the palace. Even though the girls were princesses, they were still surprised by such luxurious beds in this palace. It looks like it was a test for princesses, was just like in fairy tales. Each one had a pea under her mattress. She had to say tomorrow when she woke up that she hadn't slept well. She could definitely pass the test and become an alternate princess. In the evening, the girls had dinner at the restaurant. Coincidentally, she was sitting across from Vivian again. And why did she always like to bully her? She deliberately humiliated her, and when did she have time to cross the road? After eating quickly, Vivian got up and left the hall. Han Moli decided to follow her. Vivian walked down the road that led to the palace. On the way, she was whispering to the maid. Han Moli heard what she was saying to her. She ordered her to put peas under all the mattresses except hers. Vivian seems to know the original tale, too. So why are these two princesses players in her storyline? Vivian wanted to come out the only winner in this test. As Han Moli was peeking at them, she accidentally knocked on the wall. Princess Vivian immediately asked who was watching her. To somehow get out of this situation, Han Moli came out from around the corner as if nothing had happened. She asked Miss Vivian why she was here alone. The maid told her to keep her company. Smiling, she said the palace was in the opposite direction. The castle is so huge, and it's easy to get lost in it. But Princess Vivian knew what she was talking about. So she told her that it was just the two of them here and she could not pretend. Then she went over to Han Moli and told her in her ear. She blundered and got in trouble again. She will be killed for insulting the royal family. In the bedroom, Han Moli lifted her mattress to check for peas underneath. She realized that Vivian had made a deal with the maid and removed the peas from under the other beds. If she gave the right answer without a pea under the bed, the prince would declare that she was a cheat. Still, Vivian was cunning and thought this through well. As she sat thinking about it near the bed, a guard came quietly up behind her. He approached so quietly that she didn't even notice, and grabbing her hand, he asked what she was doing here. He noticed her bad intentions at a glance. He demanded an explanation from her. What she intended to do as she looked under the mattresses. The sentinel immediately discovered that the peas for the test were gone. He suspected her of this. Then she gently took his hands and told him that she wanted to report someone for fraud. She told him that the future of all princesses was at stake. And she asked him to take her to her royal highness. The next morning, a maid came into their room and asked how they slept today. Most of the princesses responded that it was very good. They thanked the king for their hospitality. Some even had beautiful dreams. Han Moli answered that the mattresses were very large, soft, and comfortable. But Princess Vivian disagreed with the statement about the comfortable mattresses. She said she had slept very badly last night. Then the maid asked her how that discomfort manifested itself. Vivian replied that she thought something was pressing. After hearing all the answers, the maid announced that the test was over. Then the prince took the floor. The test they were taking tonight was to place a pea under each mattress in their chambers. The girls immediately became alarmed as no one noticed anything. They thought the chambers were quite comfortable. Only those who would have felt discomfort with their delicate skin could pass the test. But then he realized this was wrong. Before they went to bed, he ordered the maid to quickly replace all the mattresses with new ones. This was to bring out the crooks. Last night, he received a report that someone was running a scam. He sent a man to check the mattresses. They found a pea under the mattress of only one princess. She lied that she was uncomfortable sleeping. Isn't that right, Princess Vivian? The prince looked at her contemptuously. What were her goals? All the princesses started discussing her. After replacing the mattress, she said she was uncomfortable sleeping. Obviously she knew the point of the test. Han Moli, who was standing off to the side, thought it was kind of weird. Everything had gone according to her plan, but why didn't the mole alert her to the danger? Last night in the main office she told her that she suspected Princess Vivian's maid of stealing peas from under other mattresses. She heard Vivian tell her maid about it, and a security guard checked for peas under the other mattresses. All of the princess's peas were gone, except for Vivian's mattress. Still, the guard who stood with Han Moli was a little suspicious of her. She looked suspicious to him anyway, and besides, she was accusing Princess Vivian of cheating. Han Moli did not understand this behavior of the guard. But to this the prince only grinned. He said that she really did not look like an ordinary princess. But he could not publicly accuse Vivian of cheating. He asked for some evidence of her guilt. Miss Awan said she had seen the maid's face and could identify her. But after some deliberation, she asked His Highness to remove all the peas from under the mattresses. If after that, in the morning, someone said they had not slept well, she could be accused of cheating. His Highness liked such a suggestion. He ordered the captain to have the maid urgently replace all the mattresses. But Vivian Gui Gordon Princess, even if she turns out to be a fraud, she will be all right. And how would she be held accountable for a false accusation? Then Han Moli slammed the table and walked over to the prince. She said that she never accuses people without grounds. So as a guarantor of her words, she puts her life on the line. If everything she said is a lie, then His Highness can do whatever he sees fit with her. The prince did not expect her to be so sure of her words. Then he stood up and told her that he greatly appreciated her courage and determination. People like her are very rare to find in the palace. He would take this matter very seriously. He hoped she could pass the test. When he left, he called her a special princess. In the Gordon Empire, she was used to the finest silks and the softest beds. That was why she was uncomfortable sleeping. In her excuse, Princess Vivian said. But the captain of the guard didn't care about her excuse. He ordered that this deceiver be detained and thoroughly interrogated. But Vivian did not give up and shouted to the whole hall. Who dares accuse the real princess of deceit? To such words, the guard could answer nothing. Miss Awan knew that she would not give up just like that. Fortunately, she had a witness. She took the maid by the hand and walked with her to the middle of the hall. She turned to His Royal Highness. This is the maid who stole the peas on Vivian's orders last night. She understood that she had no motive to disrupt the test. So she must confess who ordered her to do it, and His Royal Highness will have mercy on her.